Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the chameleon, who is reporting live from her little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law, here in East Texas, in the bottomlands of East Texas, James Wade. But we are here with our fantabulous Pulpwood Queen author, and gosh, she is our voice for the Pulpwood Queens, Claire Fullerton from Malibu, California. And Claire is going to continue in this second part of our introduction of our 2000 bonus books of the year. We are going to continue with that conversation, and then we're going to have a little happy hour time. We hope everybody will join us, and whatever your favorite beverage is, whether it's coffee or whatever, wine, mixed drink, you know, come on, let's have a conversation. I haven't been out of this house, this cabin, in 2 years, and I don't talk to anybody but Mandy, and she's sick of me, okay? Please stay and talk to me so I don't go mad in this cabin. All right, Claire, I'm turning it over to you.
All right, and we shall resume. We went through the first few months, and at the moment we are in the month of October with the 2022 Pulpwood Queen and Timbered Guys bonus book selections. And so picking up with the month of October, we have Five Will Die by Trace Conger. Trace, are you here?
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Great.
Please tell us about your book.
Well, first, let me say I was scrolling through the gallery and I noticed that I'm the only person wearing these fashionable earbuds.
Yes.
So I apologize for that. I'm feeling a little self-conscious for it, but I'll try and work my way through it. Also wanted to say thank you so much for Kathy and Mandy for including me on this list. I'm very excited to participate in listening to some of these wonderful authors. It sounds like I'm in very, very good company. So I'm very excited. I wrote my novel Five Will Die. It is my sixth novel. There's the real big version for you there.
Great cover.
Yeah, thank you. And Five Will Die follows Tim Burke, who is an ex-homicide detective from Cleveland, who was essentially forced out of his position because of an anxiety disorder that was brought on by really all the gruesome crimes that he investigated there over several decades. So he leaves Cleveland and he moves to the really small town of Lincoln, Ohio, which doesn't actually exist, but it's based on the small town that I live in now, small town called Lebanon. And he's bored for a few years there, and he decides to take up a position as sheriff. He's elected sheriff because of his previous law enforcement background. And nothing happens in this town. It's a town of 3 police officers, and there's no crime to investigate. So he's feeling pretty good about himself. The only thing I think the most pressing thing he had to deal with is some teenagers who vandalized a local barn up on the hill. And so he's living a great life until one day when he comes to his office and someone has slipped a note under his office door claiming that 5 people will die in the town of Lincoln. And he doesn't really think much of it. You know, he and his 2 deputies kind of dismiss it because, again, nothing ever happens here, nothing. And so they really don't take it seriously at all until a few weeks later when the first body turns up, and then the second. So then they have to start investigating the crime. And in addition to the challenge of actually solving the murder, Burke's anxiety disorder resurfaces based on everything that's happening. So not only is he tasked with finding the murder, but he's also tasked with overcoming some of the anxiety issues that he had, which kicked him off the force in Cleveland. So yeah, it's a real feel good family book.
Can you say Netflix movie?
I'm hoping. I've got my phone right here. I'm waiting for them to call, but as of yet, no dice.
Thank you for that. Your book sounds wonderful, and it sounds very visual and very character driven, and that's exactly what they love on Netflix. So,
Well, Claire, if you know anyone, let me know.
Yes.
I'll see
if
who
you've got an in.
We're working on it, Trace. We're going to get so big that nobody's going to be able to ignore us.
That's right.
Wonderful.
We believe in you. So that's the good part. I hope that Tom Schatzman is with us. The Memoir of a Minotaur.
I don't think he's here.
But Kim Davis, do you want to, you know what, you should have, it's like for Francine Rodriguez.
I know.
Love her.
Go
Oh,
ahead and do both of them.
I keep waiting for Francine to pop in, but okay. So Francine, let's go back up a minute to Francine Rodriguez.
Okay.
A Woman's Story. That was September, was it?
It was.
Yeah. It is just a wonderful collection of short stories, and they're not really short. They're kind of longish short stories, you know. In the I kept editing, and I'd send it back and say, let's do trim, and then it would come back longer. And so I just I just quit. I mean, the stories are so good. Francine's such a good writer. I finally decided to trust her and leave it alone. You know, they are stories of Latina women in downtown Los Angeles, in the poorer part of the city, and they come from different backgrounds, different communities within Los Angeles. And I think her decision to focus on the Latina community was a really, really good one and really timely. It ties in with Francine's work. I don't know exactly what her job is, but she's involved with counseling and litigation in Los Angeles, and has been working as a counselor for years there. So these are stories from people that she's actually met. There's not real stories, but she's relaying her stories from real life experience, and she's just really good at it. So I hope she's going to join us on Thursday. We're going to do our best. She's got to be in court. So hopefully it's going to fall at her lunch break and she'll get with us. Otherwise, I'm going to read her story Thursday. Tom Shachtman's story, Memoir of the Minotaur, it's fun. Imagine that the Minotaur is Bob Barker welcoming new souls into Hades. And he's telling his life story, and he's a character. And even though he's talking about rape and murder and cannibalism and all kinds of really gory stuff, he does it, it's tongue in cheek throughout. You know, it's never gruesome. It's never just, you don't soak in that gruesome detail so much as just it's the scenery, because he's telling it from memory as well. It's not anyway, it's a wonderful story, and Tom is such a smart fellow, and he had a really good time writing this. So if you enjoy mythology, the myth of the Minotaur, that's a good one for you. It's not a child's book though. There is
it reminded me of Christopher Moore.
Yes.
Very yes. Christopher Moore and Chuck Palahniuk.
I don't know.
Yes.
Choke, Rant's my favorite. Oh well, anyway, it is hilarious. You're laughing and you're like, wait, am I supposed to be laughing?
Yeah.
A guilty pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun and everything, but don't get it for your grandchildren.
Don't read. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Claire.
Okay. Mickey
you,
Dubrow, do we have the pleasure of your company?
Yes, I'm
there
here.
he is.
How wonderful. American Judas. Please tell us about it.
American Judas is a dystopian thriller. It takes place 10 years after evangelicals take control of the United States and make us a official Christian nation. They establish a national church. They outlaw homosexuality, abortion, and any non-Christian religion. And the story follows a young couple, Seth and Maggie Ginsburg. Seth had converted to Christianity, but he rediscovers his Jewish roots and starts attending an underground synagogue. A co-worker outs him, so he is forced to escape to Mexico. And on the way there, his wife Maggie is captured and sent to a savior camp so that she can be brainwashed back so that she's right with God. And it's actually very funny, but I think very true of what might happen. It's sort of like, it was my idea that evangelicals are always talking about that we should be a Christian nation. And my feeling was, I think this is what you think I think this is what would happen. Is this really what you want? And maybe you don't. Maybe we should talk a little bit more.
I want to interject something too. I met Mickey through Robert Gwaltney because they're in the same writers group, and Mickey filled in for me. And you guys, he's a cartoonist. You should see his drawings and everything. And it was fascinating, his story. And it's hard to describe this book, but it makes you think and it makes you want to have a conversation. And that's what the Pulpwood Queens do. We have a conversation. So thank you, Mickey. Thank you.
Great. Kathy, I don't know if you know this, but your image is up as opposed to your lovely face in person at
Well,
the moment.
that's because I
There
had to
you go.
let Rush was knocking at the door to go out. My
Oh,
cat.
okay.
She slipped in
So I
behind
didn't want you guys to
Marilyn.
watch me get up to let my cat out. And now he didn't go out. So now he wants to go out again. So Barbara's going to. I'm sorry. This is the life of a pet owner. So go
Okay.
ahead.
She slipped
All
in
right.
behind Marilyn Rothstein.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Barbara Conray, I know you're here. We're so excited. Nowhere near goodbye. We're ready to hear about it, please.
Oh, she is totally here. It's my
Hello,
one of my
Barbara.
favorite books
I
this
saw
year.
her.
Barbara.
She's probably on mute.
On mute.
She was
There,
There she
there.
Wonderful.
You can
There
see
she
the picture
is.
again. Can you hear
Take
me
it
now?
away.
Okay.
Oh, I love your tiara.
Oh, thank you. This is my very first book. I mean, my really very first book. The first book I ever wrote. I didn't know how to write a book. No, seriously, I didn't. I thought you just told a story. And so that's what I did. I told a story and then I gave it to some writer friends and I said, what do you think? And they said, maybe you ought to try something else. So I took some classes and I kept learning and I finally got the story written. It's a story of a female oncologist who discovers a cure for a brain tumor, glioblastoma, and which in real life, we all know there is no cure. And in doing so, in spending all of her life researching, she sacrifices both her husband and her daughter. And she does discover a cure. And a lot of people, my readers, have had very mixed reactions about Emma, the oncologist. Most people love her. Some people hate her terribly. And I've had some real scathing reviews about her, but the majority of people, especially readers in the medical community, feel that I really captured what some doctors are like, although interestingly enough, most of those doctors are male. And of course, I made Emma female because I wanted to have a conversation about why it is almost assumed that that kind of a person who could put everything on hold except their career, would be male as opposed to female. And I have had some great conversations about it. And anyway, the prequel to it is coming out this year, which I'm really excited about. And I do have a funny story to tell about when Nowhere Near Goodbye was first published. I was on Twitter one night and I was drinking a little bit of wine and Caroline Levitt was on Twitter and she tweeted something to someone else saying, I really want your manuscript, so send it to me. So remember, I'm drinking wine and I responded and I said, I would give my first child for that offer. And I don't know Caroline Levitt from anyone. And she messaged me and she says, have your publicist send it to me. And I said, I don't have a publicist. She says, well, you have a manuscript, don't you? I said, yes. And she says, so send it to me. So I said, okay. And I did, and she read it, and she gave me the most beautiful blurb. She is my hero. She is just the most wonderful, generous author. And actually, I found that in general, I am just in awe of the generosity of authors. I have learned so much from authors. I have been blessed with so much help. And which reminds me, I wanted first to say how honored I am that I am even here tonight. So thank you very much to Kathy and Mandy for reading Nowhere Near Goodbye, for loving it, and for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Well, you know Carolyn Leavitt's going to be here.
I do know, yes.
Yes, she is, and we are pumped. And I just posted on the chat site that she's a former Book of the Year winner, and we adore her. So
Yes.
we're really excited.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, we have our last month for the 2022 Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys bonus books. So we have Pause, a novel by Sarah Stammy.
It's Stamey, but that's okay.
Stammy?
But yeah, here's the book. And I want to thank Kathy and Mandy and so many others who have been supportive. This is my 6th novel. Very different, 6th published novel. I have some others in the back. Very different from my usual suspense adventure writing. I have been an adventurer around the world. I have the Rambling Writer blog. I've backpacked solo as Central and South America, New Zealand. The biggest, most dangerous adventure of my life was going through menopause. And this novel takes off from a journal I kept because, dear diary, I'm tired of being tragic. And it is a little bit of humor. It's a little bit of a love letter to my Pacific Northwest homeland. I'm from Bellingham, Washington, way up almost in Canada. And my heroine, Lindsay, is going through divorce from an abuser. She's been divorced from an abuser. She's called the Hot Flash Queen of America. And she's cautiously deciding to date midlife and find out what that's all about. So there's also some serious content in here, but I tried to laugh myself out of being tragic, frankly. And a lot of people seem to really enjoy that. I got a nice blurb from Mindy Klasky, best-selling author, a must-read novel of friendship, love, and killer hot flashes. I'm surprised that a lot of men love the novel, and I'm getting such wonderful reader reviews and Publisher Weekly blurb and some others. So I didn't expect this to take off this way. Something so different, but anyway, I love this. This is so fun hearing all your stories, and thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
And Janet Oakley says that Sarah's my dear friend, fellow Bellinghamster.
Yes, yes. We have a club chapter together.
How wonderful.
Thanks, Janet.
Pulpwood Queen chapter in Bellingham, Washington. Y'all, it's a wonderful place to visit once this COVID stops.
I was
Go
there
with your
tomorrow.
offers. Yeah. All right. So have we got the whole
One
list,
more.
Brett?
Well, we have one more. We have
Okay.
One Must Tell the Bees by
Oh.
J.L. Matthews.
Oh,
That would be me, and I'm Jeff Matthews, originally Connecticut, now Naples, Florida. And I don't have a tiara. If our granddaughters were around the house, there would be one, but fortunately they're not. So One Must Tell the Bees is the story of a young chemist named Holmes who travels from England to America in the last year of the Civil War to work at the DuPont Gunpowder Works. He ends up coming to the attention of Edwin Stanton, Lincoln's war secretary, and also manages to meet Lincoln and the family as well, and ultimately ends up in the manhunt for John Wilkes Booth, which we now know was the very first case of the detective who would become famous around the world as Sherlock Holmes. And one of the themes of the book is the importance of understanding our history before we try to rewrite it or erase it, which is something that's front page news these days. So it's been a very interesting journey, and I'm very glad to have arrived at this point with the Pulpwood Queens and Timberland guys. And Kathy and Mandy, you should know that the fellow who prompted me to reach out to you all is Lang Martin Jr.
Oh my God, I love Lang. Oh,
Yeah.
He's awesome. Yeah.
He's a dear friend of mine. We talk music and creativity, and Lang, we talk about everything. And he had suggested this, so I owe a great deal to him for putting me into this great mix. And I'm awed at the cross section of writers here. It's just been wonderful. So thank you both for all the hard work you do.
That's just such a wonderful, and I love Linda, his wife. They were
Yes.
at Girlfriend Weekend.
They were.
I don't know, was it 2019 or 20?
It was 20 because I met them there. They were lovely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, do you go by Jeff or what do you go by?
I go by Jeff. Yeah.
Jeff, what, from the eyes up, you look just like Stephen Colbert. Anybody else see it?
Yes, I see it. I see it.
And I
Kathy,
met him in person. We're published by the same publisher, But
so
yeah, you could be his
15,
brother.
10 or 15 years ago, I was in a Borders bookstore with our daughter, who was young, very young then. And this woman comes up to me and starts screaming, Stephen Colbert. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And I said to my daughter, what's this about Stephen Colbert? And she said, Dad, you look just like Stephen Colbert. Everybody talks about it. So
You have better ears. But I also have to tell you, when I went back to college at 59, I realized how I hated history in high school because mostly I had coaches teaching it and they were terrible. And, they just boring, monotone voice. But when I went back to college and I started taking all these art history courses, I realized how stupid I was on history. So I had a friend loan me the 32, 34 tapes on Lincoln on audio. And I listened to those. I had no idea all the stuff about, all I knew is he studied in a log cabin by candlelight. And, he was this, country boy who did good and got president. But it was the most, so Mandy was the first one to read your book and she just went crazy over it because we're both reading the books and taking turns. And we're so proud and excited that you're on our list. Thank you.
well, thank you. I greatly appreciate that.
So great to meet you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
now
that
we're
wraps
gonna-
that up.
Now we need to open it up and have each one of you tell us about your backstory. What is the, and we can just start from the bottom and go back up. So we can start with you, Jeff. Have you always been a writer?
Well, almost. When I got out of college, I studied finance because I didn't have the confidence to be a writer. But I wrote short stories at night. By day, I worked at Merrill Lynch in New York, and by night, I wrote stories in my rat-infested apartment in Manhattan and sent them off to all the magazines. They'd get rejected. I'd rewrite them, send them back. And in the course of 2 years, I had 3 stories accepted. One was New York Times, one was Boston Globe, and one was read on NPR. And out of that, I was paid $150. The New York Times was the only one that paid. And I decided, well, I can't raise a family on $150 every 2 years. So I'm going to focus on this finance thing. But along the way, I wrote a financial blog, which led to a contract with McGraw-Hill to write a book about Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway 10 years ago. And that's when I got the idea for writing my own book that I'd always wanted to do. And long story short, that's why I'm here.
That is this
Great
is this your
story.
first no is this
First
your
novel, first novel, Kathy. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's
Thank
a
you.
great backstory. I love it. And where do you live?
Live in Naples, Florida now.
Oh, Naples, down your way, Mandy. Mandy's from Florida.
Well,
Fernandina.
Mandy, we drive through Amelia Island, and we always stop at the Book Loft in your neck of the woods.
Jeff, we need to meet for lunch. I'm up in Sarasota.
Ah, okay, great.
Look at all
Mandy,
these
drive on down.
connections.
Sarasota's the middle of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
That's great. Okay, who was just right before you? We're
I
going
was.
backwards.
We're going back.
Sarah.
Yeah, so I
Sarah.
mentioned that I'm fourth generation here in Bellingham, Whatcom County, but I've lived in southern Chile where I homesteaded and I've been all around. I started out driving my family crazy on car trips by telling every plot of every dream I've ever had. I wrote my first science fiction story at age 6 and it had illustrations. And I was persuaded then that that was not a practical thing to do and went into chemistry, became a nuclear reactor operator, and was totally not my thing to do. So I went off to the Caribbean and taught scuba and traveled around. And then I started getting serious about writing my novels and got 3 published by Big 5 publisher. And then they forgot to distribute my 3rd book. And that was the end of that. And so I've been with this wonderful cooperative publisher now, Brookview Cafe. There's 35 of us professional novelists, and we do it and we claim our power. And it's wonderful. They've been so supportive. So anyway, different ways to go about this. Yeah.
All right.
I
Claire, who was right before her?
It was me, Kathy, I think, wasn't it? I was talking for Tom Shachtman
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
and
Yes, it was.
Francine Rodriguez. Yeah. Backstory on those guys. I can't give you that. I'll tell you a little bit about Madville Publishing. They're Madville Publishing. That's the reason I'm speaking for them, in case no one knows who I am or why I spoke on their behalf. I'm their publisher and their editor. And so, and we have a little press called Madville Publishing. We're based in Denton, Texas. We do mostly literary fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. There's a little bit of memoir mixed in with the essays. Yeah, Rita Quillen. I didn't want to give the impression we published Wayland, but we do publish Rita's poetry. So I've known Rita for a while. I was at Texas Review Press before, so that's how we got Rita, because I already knew her. And along with Rita Quillen, I'll tell you what, we've got a bunch of Appalachian writers, and you get one that everybody loves, like Rita, and all the rest come with her. It's wonderful.
Great. I love Appalachian writing.
So do I.
Well, you have Kim, I love all your authors. Like you're doing
This is
it.
the thing. Going to events like this is how it happens. You meet people, and it's all come from meeting wonderful people, sitting at the book fair next to a poet who says, "Hey, I got a manuscript," and he slips you his manuscript, and you find out he's a big shot publisher and he knows everybody. And the next thing you know, you're publishing his friends too.
That's how it works.
I don't know.
And we all have to thank Kim, because Kim is the one that did the shorter Zoom link rendition of her program that we're all using for this festival, because she saw that people didn't want to negotiate the 46-page program. But I'm the one that did it, because I put the entire Zoom links in. It was 46 pages. And they go, it's a tome, y'all, but we're readers, right? Hey,
Bless
Kim.
it. Bless. Oh, no, no problem. Bless your heart. I just, the trick there, y'all, is learn how to work that table of contents in a Word document. That's I'll give you that hint. I wrote about it somewhere on Medium. If you want to know, I will share that link with you.
Okay.
Wonderful. Barbara Conray,
Yes.
you're up.
Okay. No, I've never been a writer. I published op-ed pieces in the local newspaper, which when my kids were small, it filled my need for being able to write. And it got to be kind of funny because at Christmas time one year, I wrote a story about the fact that every year at Christmas I bake cinnamon bread, and I said something about it, wrote the story, and I got people calling from all over, like wanting the recipe, and it was just a way to fill my need. I never thought I could be a writer. I never thought I could ever write a book, write a short story, write a poem. I was a mother, and then I worked, and I was in the healthcare profession. And as it turned out, that is why I wrote the book, because a good friend of mine lost a loved one to glioblastoma, and it made me so angry. And the only way I could do anything with that anger was to write the book. And even though the book doesn't come across as angry, and it doesn't even come across as the story of the child who died, instead it ended up being the story of the child's friend who grew up to be a surgeon. That was how I expressed my feelings. And once I started writing, which was not until I retired from working full time, and I was old. Well, I'm still old. I'm not getting any younger, but I'm writing every single day, and I've never been happier in my life.
Wonderful.
So,
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I love this because I'm just going to interrupt for a second. And, Barbara and I obviously have a little love fest going on. But, there's a whole cadre of us older writers who have this story. And, I see Janet Oakley down there going, yes, yes. We have this story, whether it's the medical story or whether it's Janet's story or whether it's my story. So I'm so excited that, several of us got picked, that Barbara got picked, because women's stories are different at every ages. And Barbara focuses on a way younger period than I am, but about the choices we have to make as we go as women. So I really thank Kathy and Mandy for choosing so many of our older women writers' books. And thanks, Barb.
you're quite welcome. I love you, Grace. You're just, we do have this love thing going on, Grace and I. We got to meet through, how did we meet? Through Bookish
We've
Road
never
Trip,
met.
Well,
We-
not
well-
personally, not really, but.
Well, through
we-
Bookish Road Trip, through Pulpwood Queens, that's it.
Yes, yes,
Really important platforms.
yeah. Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, that's thank you for that Love Fest story. Enjoy. Very good. Very good. You can always count on you, Grace. All right, Mickey Dubrow, it's your turn.
Well, like Kathy said, and thank y'all for including me. I started out wanting to be a cartoonist, but I think what I always wanted to be was a storyteller of some sort. When I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, I started in a career of jobs that are now obsolete. I was a paste-up artist at a printing company. That job no longer exists. I then went to a television station where I was an on-air switcher, but the format of tapes that we use are no longer used. Then I became a writer producer for promos for various networks. And now they don't make promos anymore because everything's streaming. And that's when I decided to take a big step back and be a writer. But while I was a freelancer writer producer, I learned how to tell stories very quickly and to get to the essence of a story. And that was very important to me. And also when I had a downtime, I didn't think, like y'all, I didn't think I could be a writer. I didn't think it was one thing to write a 30-second promo, but an entire book, no, I couldn't do it. So I decided to I decided just to write a book for the fun of it. And it was a crime story about a guy who wanted to own his own burger franchise by the time he was 30, and he's 29, and he ends up killing someone to get the money. So it was just, and it was a terrible book, and thank God no one took it. And I have written 4 novels since then. American Judas is actually like the 5th novel that finally I figured out how to tell a story. So it's, and now I'm retired and writing every day, like you were saying, it's been the best. I actually have another novel coming out in 2023 that I'm very excited about. So like you say, you just keep at it, you keep putting it out there. I want to say about American Judas, I wrote it in 2011, and it took till 2016 to get a publisher to take it. It finally came out in 2018. So nobody wanted that book, and I knew, but I believed in it, and I just kept saying, no, I don't care. I'm going to keep putting it out there. So I salute all of y'all. I know you're doing the same journey with me, and I appreciate y'all.
That's incredible.
Mickey?
And who's the publisher, Mickey?
It's a small publisher called Southern Fried Karma in Newton, Georgia.
Yeah, and they had a magazine. I know exactly who they are. And I'm probably one of the few people listening that knows what a switcher is.
Yeah.
And
Do you
so
have a cartoon there handy you could show? I mean, his cartoons are incredible.
yeah,
Actually, I wanted to ask you the swag I sent you. Do you still have that? The American Judas trading cards?
No, I didn't
Oh my
get
God,
them.
you didn't get them?
No.
I mailed them to you like, yeah. I made trading cards of
no.
all the characters from American Judas.
Oh,
Hold on, just, they look like this.
oh, look.
I'll go back through I have a basket full of all the book plates and swag. I'll go back through and look, but his renderings, his drawings, his cartoons, they're incredible. And, Doug Marlette, who was a Pulitzer Prize winning political cartoonist, was one of my best friends in the whole world. In fact, why I do the Doug Marlette Award every year in his honor. And I've always followed cartoonists. I just think it's amazing that you can, with very simple but very succinct lines, tell a story, So, I'm gonna look again. I hope I'll check before this weekend's out, and we'll see if maybe they slip down somewhere. Okay. All right. Who's next?
So is Trace Conger here? I know that Tom Schatzman is not, but Trace is here.
Yes, I'm still here.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I forgot the question. Was it how we got into
We
writing?
wanted to know a little bit about your background, where you live,
Yeah.
and how long you've been a writer.
Yeah.
And
So
the story of the Post-its. The story.
yeah, well, someone mentioned that in the chat, and I said that that's the place where mediocre novel ideas go to die. So that was a book I outlined, I think, 3 years ago, and it's actually going to be my next one. And then what you can't see is the other wall that is, you can scan over there. Holding more Post-it notes over there, which is a novel that I started and never finished. So there's just kind of cooking or simmering up there for a while. But as far as how I got into writing, I went to college in the 90s and actually got a degree in creative writing, which I think broke my parents' heart because they assumed I would be bartending somewhere for years. That actually was the case, because that's basically what you can do with a creative writing degree in Ohio. But yeah, I always had dreams of being an author. I just didn't know how to do it. So I ended up in public relations. That took me to New York. I worked with some big firms out there. I was a public relations consultant for Microsoft when they were going through their Department of Justice issue. I was in public relations for pharmaceutical companies, which was a nightmare. And then I decided I was going to leave public relations and do the next best thing, which was an advertising copywriter. So I did that for years, and then woke up one day and realized, I'm doing a ton of writing. And as Mickey mentioned, you kind of have to learn how to tell a story really succinctly when you're kind of doing it for a living. So I felt like all of those things that I've been doing prepared me a little bit, but I woke up one day and was like, you know what? I'm not doing what I want to do, and I'm not getting any younger. So I went in and I told my my boss, who was the head of the creative department at an ad agency, that I was leaving. I put in my 2 weeks notice and I left, and I started freelancing. I would freelance about 2 hours a day, which actually gave me enough money to maintain, the electricity and feed a family. And then I wrote because I tried to write on the weekends. I tried to write in the morning. I tried to write in the evening, and I could not make it work. So for me, the best solution was freelance, so I could actually earn a little bit of money and then also write on the side. And I published my first novel in 2014, and it won a Seamus Award for one of the best crime novels of that year. And I haven't won a damn thing since. So I guess I peaked, and I'm just riding the roller coaster down, I guess. I don't know. But it's kind of the short version.
Hang in there, Trace. Hang in there. Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Let me see who else we've got.
Leslie.
Yeah. Leslie.
Yeah. Hi.
Your turn.
Okay. I have written my entire life. I can't even remember a time when I didn't write. The first thing I can remember receiving money for was a poem I wrote in the fourth grade at St. Sebastian's School in Milwaukee, called I Am the Sun, and I'm in the sky, and very soon I'll tell you why. God made me and put me there for all of you, my light to share. I glow like emeralds in the sky, and maybe rubies dipped in dye. I'm very hot, as you well know. God made me just to glow and glow. So I was a pretty cagey little kid, and blue collar neighborhood. I'm going to a Catholic school, so I sussed out pretty quickly that if I could mention God a whole bunch of times in anything, right in like Flynn. And I ended up winning the all-school poetry contest and got my very first silver dollar, which, that was a big deal back then. Silver dollar, that was big. And then the next thing I can remember is writing a script for 77 Sunset Strip.
Ooh, 77 Sunset
Yeah.
Strip.
That's right. If I could still snap, I don't know what happened to my snappies. But I wrote this
Put cookie on that?
Yes, you may. I wrote the script for 77 Sunset, and like everyone here is probably too young, except for me and Kathy and some other old ladies. But it was a really great little plot, and I was probably 11. And you got to kind of picture this like blue collar neighborhood in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I went up to my mother and I said, "Hey, so listen, I wrote this story for 77 Sunset Strip." I mean, I can still remember the look this poor woman had on her face, like, what the hell? And I said, "Could you send this to Hollywood for me?"
11?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And she did. Bless her. She sent the script. And it, and I got to tell you, Kathy, I wish I still had that thing, because I'm not kidding. I mean, it was really sad and poignant. Like every Friday it was on, and I would sit there, in front of the TV, waiting for the cat who stole the jewels. That was the name of the story. And like every Friday, like, they didn't like it. And so then, but about 2 months after that, I got a picture, glossy, of Ed Burns, Cookie Burns, Cookie Burns. That was pretty cool. But then a month after that, I'm not kidding you, they had a story about a cat that smuggled diamonds into the country in its collar. I said, they stole my idea.
Jeez.
So yeah, and then I just kept writing all the time. That's, I just write and write and write and write and write. And I did lots of stuff in high school, did stuff in college. I wrote a lot of skits. I did a lot of improv. I was an actress for a long time in Los Angeles. But all the time I'm writing. I too wrote a lot of commercials, a lot of copy, which helps you really, which it did not affect me in the positive way that it has others. I myself am so not interested in plot. And I'm finding this to be a big problem. It seems to me that most stories are very plot driven, especially recently. I am not so much interested in watching people, the stuff that people do. I'm more interested in why are these people acting like this in these stories? I mean, that's all I care about. All I want to know is, why did you do that? I don't, I tend to think, my stuff is absolutely 100% character driven, but I mean, there's got to be a plot. So I throw some of that in, but it's mostly not. And so that's where I'm at now.
Love
That's
it.
it. Wonderful. Absolutely. Thank you so much. You're just delightful. Yeah, you're up next.
Well, it's
Thank you, Claire.
great, but I
I
think
just want to, can I say one thing more?
Yeah.
Okay. I want a show of hands of everybody who would very much like to be Claire's best friend. Right?
We are Claire's.
We all
We
want to
are,
be Claire's
and
best
I'm
friend.
her cousin.
just
We're
wait.
family.
I'm a cousin
But I can be
too.
your
Yeah, I'm
new
Betty's
cousin too. I'm everybody's cousin.
Just wait till you do the Pulpwood Queens in person is all I've got to say for
That's
those
right.
of you that are uninitiated, that it's like you think it's going to be good, but it defies description. It is just like, this high energy, hilarious vibe. Everybody's there throwing around the love and the joy for 3 days. It's unbelievable.
Robert Gwaltney says he's your love child.
Oh, he is. Yeah, I mean, he's my alligator.
Who's
He's
the
my alligator.
daddy?
Yeah. Yeah. Robert, he's as a true Southerner, that the first time when we first started dating, we were going back and forth via message. And I said, all right, see you later, alligator. And I'm thinking he's not going to say anything. I mean, I don't know him. He's not going to say anything. He gets back after a while, crocodile. I thought I love this guy. And ever since I've been calling him alligator and he calls me crocodile. So that's what that inside joke is. All right. So who else would like to speak, y'all? We're just so happy to have all y'all here. You can simply raise your hand. You don't have to be called.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, just raise your hand. We want to hear from everybody.
Let's raise your hand.
I'm so exhausted. I'm afraid I'll sound stupid if I don't speak soon.
The woman with
Okay.
the beautiful necklace has the floor.
Yeah, I tried to do the glam thing. I've been writing my whole life. Marilyn and I have some similarities. I had a small PR firm when I was younger. First published in my early 20s, helped a husband build a company in the Midwest, and then adopted 4 kids. And so that kept pushing off when I would sit down and really get serious about writing novels. Finally did that at age 45 when my marriage imploded. I figured I'd write when I got a little older and just had the luxury of time and didn't have to stress about it. The books have done really well. I waited for Random House and New American Library on the first book for like a year and a half. And then a critique partner said, why don't you try e-publishing, which I knew nothing about and thought, who e-publishes books? but it worked. And then after the first series did very well, Lake Union asked if I would write for them. And it's still working. The next book comes out next September. And thank you for letting me speak now, because I'm just not a night owl. I sound stupid after a while.
You sound wonderful, and it's been such a pleasure to meet
And
you.
I want you all to stop with the old lady stuff. I'm about to turn 63, and we're not old ladies.
Yeah, we
We're
are.
mature.
Yeah, we are.
No more old lady.
We're the new 40s.
That's right.
Yeah, speak for yourselves.
All right, Carol Vanden Hindi, are you still with us?
Yeah, Carol.
Hey there, I'm here. Yes.
Love to hear your story.
Yeah, so I resonate with so many people's stories. And, Leslie talked about writing since she was a little girl, and I definitely can relate to that part. But my story diverges from hers, where she talks about her mother being so supportive at the age of 11, she was willing to send her content to Hollywood. My story is when I was 17 and about to go to university, I said to my nice traditional Chinese family that I was going to be an English major. And I was really excited about this. But the reaction I got was that I was actually, so the advice I was given was that I'm actually very good, and this is so stereotypical, so you guys can go ahead and laugh. I was very good at science and math, and therefore I should either be a math major, engineering major. I struck a deal with my family that I was going to try engineering just for 1 year. And if I didn't like it, I could come back and renegotiate. And I thought I can live with anything for 1 year. What I didn't count on was that when I showed up at university, they gave that completely cliche lecture, but it worked on me. You guys have probably sat in those big lecture halls where they say, look to your left, look to your right. In 4 years, only one of you is going to be left because the rest of you are going to fail out, flunk out, you're not going to make it. It made me so competitive that 4 years later, I walked down the graduation aisle with my engineering degree instead of English. The only thing those two things have in common are the first 3 letters of both of those words. And so it set me down this path of a career in what turns out to be marketing and strategy. And now I'm on our digital technologies leadership team for Mars Incorporated, which has actually been really fun. So I don't regret any of that. But it just to say, it was quite a circuitous route for me to come back to writing. And I initially started writing the novel that ended up being Goodbye Orchid as a place of solace for myself. And when I knew I had something that was deserved a broader audience was in my critique group. We would meet in person and read passages aloud to each other at this New Jersey kitchen table. And I brought a table of writers to tears with my work. And I thought, okay, now there's something that deserves to be out there. And that's when I started pursuing the path of publication. So that's my story. And I was just going to ask one question of everyone, because I know some people on the line here were talking about Florida. If anyone's going to be at IBPA in April, which is taking place in Orlando, I'm actually speaking there. So I'll be there and would love to meet anyone in person. I speak at writers' conferences about author brand and book cover design because of my marketing and strategy background.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. Florida authors, say hey.
David has his hand up.
David.
Hey.
Hey.
So I'm part of the writing poetry in grade school club, apparently. I had a poem in the school yearbook when I was in 2nd grade that was not as good as the poem I heard earlier, by the way, I just want to say. But I came to writing, I wanted to be a playwright early on. I knew that in college I was writing plays just because I love them. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college. And when I went to an MFA program for writing, the family thought it was insane. My duty was to just go home and work and pay bills. So nobody was really excited about that, but also nobody was helping me. So, they couldn't really stop me. But I was a playwright first. And how I came into books was I say yes to opportunity. So when I was a playwright, a small paper in New England asked me if I would do theater reviews, and I'd never done them before. I said, sure. And then a bigger newspaper saw my theater reviews and said, do you want to write columns for us? And I said, sure. And then the Boston Globe said, hey, do you want to write about gay marriage for us? So I wrote a weekly column in the magazine, or part of a monthly rotation with Eleanor Littman and 2 other writers. And I said, yes, of course, that would be great. And just about the time the Globe fired me, they fired Eleanor Lippman and I both. They cut us from the rotation of 4 because they were trying to go for a younger, hipper audience. I was 38 at the time. It was the Boston Globe. Their thought was a lot of 20-year-olds are going to read the Sunday magazine. I don't understand it, but so they cut Eleanor Lippman and I loose. And right at that time, a publisher said, "Hey, would you like to write a book about same-sex marriage?" And there hadn't been one. It was still a new thing. So I ended up writing a book called Homo Domesticus, which was a sort of funny memoir of same-sex marriage, which was the first of its kind, which led to a couple of other books, all nonfiction, including the one that was in Pulpwood, Queens. But then my agent left the industry because he was so demoralized. And the person that replaced him at the agency wanted me to write really gruesome serial murder books. And the thing is, I read them, I just don't know how to write them. I'm too cheerful. So I was like, well, I guess that's over. I focused on plays for a while, but then a couple of years ago, I just decided I wanted to write. I have a teenager who lives with me, and I wanted to write young adult novels. So I had a young adult novel, with a very, very indie press that turns out doesn't really pay their authors. That's a whole other thing. But it did lead to this wonderful experience with Spin Me Right Round. So yeah, the writing part of my life is, roughly 48 of my 54 years. Yeah.
Very
I've watched his
good.
daughter grow up through the years.
Yes,
She's so beautiful.
she is.
She's beautiful. How old is she now?
She is 16, so she's working on her license. She's had her first job, all those things. Yep. And during the break, she was really wanting cookies. So during the break, I quickly went and made chocolate chip cookies and ran back. It was just a long enough break to get them in the oven and to run back.
You're amazing.
You're amazing.
Absolutely. Kathy Ransberger, you have your hand up.
I do. I'm of the introvert variety, and I am a morning lark and not a night owl. So I thought while I still made sense, I would talk. Everybody always asks me where I'm from around here. And so I'm going to start, and I was born in Chicago. My parents were South Carolinians. Was born in Chicago. Then we 2 years later, we moved to Memphis. 2 years later after that, we moved to Charleston, West Virginia. 2 years after that, no, one year after that, we moved to Pittsburgh, didn't stay there long. And then we ended up in Richmond, Virginia, and then Roanoke, Virginia, Salem, Virginia, actually. And I have actually lived in this house longer than I've lived anywhere. I'm in the DC area, and I lived on the Maryland side in Bethesda. And so what brought me to my writing career is partly all that moving. My dad was a World War II vet, turned FBI, in case you're wondering. And there's a story in that, but that's for another day. So I always wrote.
Yeah, run.
I first got published at 16 by Roanoke College. I won their short story contest. And for Claire's benefit, I'll say I graduated in creative writing from Hollins University. Won its fiction award for a novel. Couldn't get it published. It's still here. It's a very, very, it's not young adult. I would say it's a new adult novel called Moments on the Edge. And then I had to earn a living. And so I became a journalist, worked for Roanoke Times and World News, then got a job as a researcher at National Geographic. And
next, I'm gone.
If you're gone, okay.
Oh.
I'm Jean Hackman as a writer. Like I get a lot of the behind the scenes writing roles. I worked for World, National Geographic World, and I also worked for their special pubs. And then I went back to school at George Washington University and started working for Red Cross and started telling their stories. That's when I started traveling again. And I've lived in Africa, I've lived in Europe, traveled all through the Middle East too. That was a beat of mine. So I was telling their stories and continuing to write short stories and publishing in literary journals. And then I decided that I was going to have kids, and that changed everything. I was 37 and 40. My daughter's adopted from China. And two things happened. 9/11 happened. And then I got a melanoma. And I came home from that diagnosis and told my husband, you know, if I go, I go. I've had this amazing life. I was 40 years old. And I want this on my tombstone now, and I'm going to do it. I'm not dying until I do this. And she finished her novel. So I can gladly say that I have not only finished it, I've published it, and here I am today. And I'm so, so happy to be with you all. Means the world to me.
Wonderful. I've read both of your books, and of course, I'm your staunch supporter. So.
Well, you are my staunch supporter,
Yeah,
as I am yours, and you're our best friend, Claire. But seriously, thank you so much.
Claire, I don't want to be your best friend. What are they all talking about?
I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. I am not worthy. But Marilyn, you were so wonderful today.
Oh yeah, I love the internet went out.
I mean, I always say you should be a stand-up comedian. I mean,
I've been trying to be your agent. I honestly,
she's just got the whole thing happening. It's just,
I just want to compete with Leslie Kagan, who I'm so glad to see, because I follow her, and I'm so glad to see what everybody looks like. You're all better looking than I thought you'd be, but no. Anyway, I want to compete with Leslie. Here is my poem from 3rd grade.
Okay.
If I had one wish, it would be a dog with a dish. A puppy of white would be just right. Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you. Maybe you and Leslie can go on the road together.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe
road trip.
Yeah, that's
listen, you guys. Mandy has told me it's after 10 o'clock. Happy hour is over, but we're going to be having more happy hour. So let's continue this conversation with the next one. How do you guys feel about that?
With the next one, when? I'm sorry.
We're having happy hours all week. I thought we could continue.
Oh,
the
yes,
conversation
indeed.
Because it's after 10 o'clock.
Indeed.
And we start again tomorrow morning. It's a long day.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And we want to hear from James Garrison.
So those of you who didn't speak now will continue with the next happy hour.
Yeah, thank you all for your patience. And James Garrison, Joanne, everybody, we want to hear from you. So come back. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Kathy. Thank you.
Claire,
Bye-bye.
you are awesome. You did an outstanding job. And I just hope you see this is just the first day. Look how many more we have to go. By the end of it, you're going to be bowling. I'm going to tell you. You won't want it to end. So thank you. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bright and early, I'll be back.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Kathy.
Bye.
Thank you, Mandy.
You
Bye-bye.
did a
Bye,
good job,
Cousin Betty.
Claire.